Here we go.
Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Life Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele VanDusen and June Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, it's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Life Support, with Michele who's really short. We'll have a ball, with June who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Life Support, with Michele who's really short. Now it's time to start Life Support.
The Life Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, here's all a round of applause.
All right. Welcome to the Life Support Podcast, the award-winning podcast. I'm your host, June Colson, here with Rhonda Colson, Corey's friend, Trisha's sister, Michele with 1L, VanDusen.
Morning. Good afternoon. Hello.
Oh, you
how
just
are
said
you?
it. You said good morning, which is what I was doing when our guest came on. And as we record this, it's after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But as Michele pointed out, that is morning for a comedian, for most comedians, yes?
Yes, absolutely. And what's really crazy is for some reason, our clock in our bedroom, it's an alarm clock, it's showing the wrong time. So I was up at like 6 o'clock this morning and I'm just sitting up in bed and I'm like, it seems earlier than 9:30. I don't know why. It just feels earlier because the clock just kept, 9:30, 9:30.
Yes.
I'm like, So I looked at my phone. I'm like, oh, it's 6:30. That's why. So I woke my husband up and then I went back to bed. He's like, oh, I'm late.
Oh no. Well, listen, I can tell you honestly, last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, I got a message from Deanna Lane, who's a comedian, 1 o'clock this morning. Like,
Love her.
used to, that would not be proper etiquette to message somebody or call them or text them at 1 o'clock in the morning. But like in my world, that's just perfectly normal. She messaged me at 1 o'clock in the morning. My sister messages me and is like, hey, what do you do at 1 a.m. when you can't sleep? I'm outside draining my pool and ordering things from Amazon. I'm like, that's about right. I, at 1 o'clock in the morning, get a message from you about this podcast. And I was sitting up in my bed eating Cocoa Pebbles. So that's just a normal, like, I'm so glad that there's so many weirdos like me out there that I get to be friends with, Michele. You included.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Cocoa Pebbles. So it's the good stuff. Not
Yeah, it's
like
like
the
Fruity
off-brand.
Pebbles, but the chocolate ones, the cocoa. And it was
Kellogg's.
no.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's not the name brand. It's all
Okay.
brand. It's not.
All right. Okay. All right.
My
There we
family
go.
never got name brand cereal.
I didn't think so.
I hardly ever. Okay. So speaking of cereal, before we bring our guest on, so I was at my dad's house yesterday, and my mom was, she was super into the Reader's Digest, and she knew like crazy facts that like. She didn't have Google. She never had the internet or anything like that. Everything she learned, she learned from books. And Reader's Digest had all these like random facts in it. So you could just have a conversation about anything, like cereal. And my mom would be like, so Fruit Loops, they're all the same flavor.
Wait, what?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, Google it.
Nope.
Google it. She didn't have Google. She didn't even have a smartphone. She had a flip phone when she died. Like she had no, they're all the same flavor. Look it up.
No, they're not.
It's all the same flavor. She also told me that roller coasters, because we love riding roller coasters. I'm telling you, no subject she didn't have a fact for. Roller coasters. My kids love to ride roller coasters. And she goes, roller coasters were invented to distract sinners.
Wait, what?
Like, what? Yeah, look it up. Coney Island. There was some cat who was like, okay, everybody's drinking in bars and sinning and stuff. I got to come up with something to distract them. And so he made roller coaster. He came up with roller coasters to distract the sinners. Yes.
Okay.
And
final. We got to talk about that on another episode, because I'm telling you what, that would have changed church for me. Okay. What else? One more.
Here's a final. Okay, I'll give you one final goofy fact. Sloths.
Yeah.
Sloths can hold their breath longer than dolphins.
Underwater
So,
or just in the air?
Michele, I don't know. I just know. Well, like if they can hold their breath, I guess you could hold your breath above water and below water, right? I would think so. I'm just
Oh,
saying, if you're
yeah,
going
you're
to go
right.
swim,
You're right.
go
You're right.
swim with
Okay.
the sloths. Is that how you say the plurals for sloth?
Sloths? Just sloths? I don't know.
Swimming with the fishes. You were going to swim with the I'm swimming with the sloth. Okay, no.
Yeah.
And last fact. Okay, I want you to start humming and then pinch your nose. No, you didn't close your nose. Do like a straight hum, like and then pinch your nose.
You can't.
You can't. It's
You can't
impossible to
breathe.
hum and pinch your nose at the same time.
Well, you can
Okay,
get like
with that
a
being
half a
said,
second.
until if you really close it off. You're always trying to find the loophole here. Okay, so with those amazing facts, Michele,
Yes.
tell me some amazing facts about the guests that we have on the show today. I'm so excited.
Okay, so our guest is one of the country's most sought after motivational inspirational speakers. He is the president of the Ken Davis Productions and Lighten Up Ministries, which produce inspirational, motivational live shows, DVDs, books, seminars, and conferences that are designed to make a positive difference in the quality of people's lives. His mixture of side splitting humor and powerful insights are unforgettable and will leave you laughing, thinking, and ready to live more fully alive. He is the founder of SCORE Speaker Academy. He's an award-winning author. His book, Fully Alive, was made into a motion picture, and you could check that out on Netflix. He has over 20 full-length comedy specials on YouTube, plus a dry bar special called I'm an Idiot. Let's welcome to the let's welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, Diane's husband and our friend Ken Davis.
There he is. Welcome, Ken. Welcome. It's always good when we start with our guests shaking their head. Like, what have I done?
I have decided that though I'm an idiot, I'm not enough of an idiot to be on the show. You guys outpace me. Good grief.
You're
Did you know
welcome.
that sloths eat Cheerios?
Do they really? That would be fantastic. That would make my day.
Or the real brand. I'm just curious now.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's what you get. This is what you get for coming on the show, Ken. I don't know what you've done to be punished like this, but we're so happy that you're here.
Well, I am so glad to be on. I've always wanted to be on something like life support.
Yes.
Not personally, but I really believe that it helps people stay alive.
It does.
And and I do sell CPAPs, so life support means a lot to me.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Michele says when I
Clear
say it, it
laugh.
sounds like, yes. When I say laugh support, no matter how hard I try to say laugh, it still sounds like life support. I can't. Well, I'm going to start spelling it out, except for I'm not a very good speller. So.
Yeah.
Laugh
Support.
Yeah.
Laugh support. All right. Well, Ken, so on laugh.
Yes.
Support,
Yes.
we like to dive in to conversations with comedians about just different people who've been along the path of their comedy journey and who's been there to lift them up, support them, and encourage them on their path in comedy. So we want to kind of bounce back to when you got started and maybe think about who's somebody who was there for you in the very beginning of
Can you
Ken
remember-
Davis doing comedy.
Yeah, think back like 100 years. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's interesting. You got to remember that I'm old enough so that I was one of the first clean comedians that did a comedy in church. When I first started, there were a bunch of people that didn't think that the two could ever come together.
Yes.
But as a result of that, I didn't have a lot of people who helped me with my comedy, but I had people who were amazingly helpful in my careers. One of the first people was a man by the name of Maurice Templeton. Maurice was, he did cruises all over the South, and he had his boat full of people from churches and faith-based organizations and everything. And his daughter came home. At the time, I was doing a high school assembly all over the United States called Nothing But the Best. And his daughter came home and said, "Dad, you got to have this guy on our cruise." And I ended up doing probably hundreds of cruises with this man who was so supportive. I mean, it was just amazing that he was one of the people who went, "These go together perfectly. Laughter is a perfect fit for what we're doing." Another person was, and I can't remember his name, and I started too late trying to remember, so I couldn't Google him. He's known as Mr. Pickleball. And again, he didn't help. Pardon?
Pickleball?
Mr. Pickleball. He's one of the people who first started to expand. It's a game for people who are too old to play tennis, okay? And he's one of the first people who expanded that, where you stand at the net and then just barely put it over, and then barely put it over, and then
it's huge now. Like the popularity of that game is huge now. Like here in Bowling Green, the Parks and Rec department here are building a bunch of like pickleball courts, and like my son, who's in his 20s, is playing with his future in-laws who are, you know, close to 60. Like they're playing these games together. So this is someone who was, look, that's another, my mother would have loved that fact. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, keep going, Ken.
Yeah. And he was one who told me, I told him what I was charging, and he said, "Are you kidding?" And he said, I've watched you perform. He said, "You need to triple what you're charging." And I said, "Yeah, but I'll go out of business." And he said, "No, if you triple what you're charging, people will perceive what you're doing a little bit differently. And because you're good," he said, they will continue to hire you, and you won't have to go so much." And he was just a tremendous help for me. Another person is Bill Gaither. Bill Gaither, way back in I don't remember what it was. It was before 2000s, way before 2000s, began to invite me to go on his cruises and be there at his shows. And for years, I did comedy along with Mark Lowry, and Mark was such a good friend and such an encouragement to me. But those are the people who encouraged my career. I really tried hard to think of somebody who encouraged, helped me with my comedy. I know that John Branyan has over the years. I've asked him to write some things for me, and he did, which is amazing. They're still in a drawer. I've never used any of that stuff. But he was so helpful. He was such a support. And those are the people who in the very beginning helped build my career. The president of Group Magazine, and again, at my age, names slip me for the longest period of time. The minute this broadcast is over, I will remember some of these names. Invited me to come and speak at his national convention. And think about this. If I'm a person who does churches and youth groups at that time, think about this. 2,000 kids in an auditorium along with their youth leaders. Well, there's at least 100 or more youth leaders who will see that and then want me to come and do something for them. So those people were tremendously amazing in my career. And I'm making it a point now that I'm real close to death to calling them and letting them know what an impact they had on me.
Wow. So I was listening to one of your specials, and I heard that you were not like a very good student, or you're kind of disruptive in class. And there was it your teacher that encouraged you to change the trajectory of your life?
Yep. I've got her name written right here. It was Mrs. Peterson. Do you mind if I tell that story? Because
we'd love to hear that.
She was at the very beginning of all of this. I weighed 115 pounds when I graduated from high school. I had curvature of the bone in both my arms. I knew what bullying was before it was even popular to talk about it. But I found out early that if I could make people laugh, they wouldn't hurt me. And in fact, I developed a kind of a life system around the fact that my ability to make people laugh gave me worth. And so in her class, we were studying Shakespeare, and there's a famous line in Shakespeare where he's looking at a piece of blood on his toga, and he says, out, out, damned spot. And I raised my hand, and she called on me, and I suggested 3 or 4 other really inappropriate adjectives other than the D word for the spot of blood on the toga. And she shut me down. And as the class was being finished, she said, Kenneth, I want you to stay after class. That's the way my name was pronounced when I was in trouble, Kenneth.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she said, you're gonna miss your bus. I've called your parents. Your parents are gonna come and pick you up.
Mm.
Now, back then, when your parents came to pick you up, they didn't bring lawyers. They brought
No.
weapons of mass destruction, 2x4s with barbed wire wrapped around them, things like that. And they always took the part of the teacher, always.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it would take them about a half hour to get there. She corrected papers for a while, had my desk pulled up next to hers. And when she got done, I can still picture, she's with the Lord now, but I can still picture her folding her hands together like this and looking at me and saying, Kenneth Alpheus Davis. And when it's pronounced like that, I'm in even more trouble. Kenneth Alpheus Davis. And I knew what was coming. She was going to expel me. I knew it because back then, these words were not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't acceptable. She said, son, God has given you a gift. Now, she said, you're using it to destroy my class. And that ends today. Do you understand?
Wow.
And I said, okay. She said, what you're going to do is I'm going to sign you up to go out for speech, and you're going to enter all the speech contests in this state. And you're going to enter them in the category humorous interpretation without nasty words. Do you understand me? I said, yes, but I don't want to do that. All my friends are walking around school in letter jackets. They have hockey sticks, footballs, macho things sewed into their jacket. I said, I don't want to walk around school with a set of lips hanging off of my jacket. I did. And she said, oh, you will go out for speech. She said, because the alternative is unthinkable. And so I said, I agreed that I would go out for speech. It was about that time my parents came. And I get choked up just thinking about this. When my parents came, rather than telling them everything that went on, she said, I wanted you to be here. I've asked Ken to go out for speech. I would like you to support him because he has an unbelievable gift. And I thought it was important that you be here to hear about that.
Wow.
It was the beginning. I won every speech contest I entered except for one where I was worried because I didn't have the right clothes to wear. But that was the beginning. That was the beginning. I started going out for plays and stuff that involved humor. And I'm so grateful for her. I can't wait to see her again and just thank her again. I did have the chance at a show one time to bring her up on stage and give her a dozen roses. And I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
Isn't that something? Go ahead, Michele.
I was just say that's amazing. Like one person was able to change the trajectory of your life, which then has affected millions of people.
One person and one sentence. Son, God has given you a gift. I realized I don't have to be a football player. I couldn't play football. I couldn't catch a football. But I could do this. And she helped me realize that I could do it in a positive way.
We've had, do you know Stephen Bergatsi?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Stephen, Nate Bergatsi is his son out of Nashville. He's a magician, and his son is really just taken off in comedy. But Stephen's been doing comedy doing a magician and comedy forever. Like he started at Opryland, actually. And he has a story similar to that of a teacher who, lifted him up. And then I personally, my story wasn't as sweet as yours because my teacher brought me to the front of the classroom when I interrupted 12 times, and 13 was her breaking point, I guess. And she said, and I knew she was going to like get on to me. I was going to be in trouble and whatever. And she said, June, I want you to know that we have taken a vote in the teacher's lounge, and we believe you are the best talker at Warren East Middle School. And I was like, oh, and she goes, honey, it's not a compliment. Okay. I was like, oh, okay. And she goes, but listen, like what I think you don't know is you can make money talking. And then I had some sarcastic like response that like, if that was true, me and my mom would be millionaires. And she's like, no, like radio, television, broadcasting, like all of the, and I was in middle school at the time. These are, these are areas that you can make money. And I was like, oh, and she goes, and middle school is not too soon to think about, what you want to do with the rest of your life. And the best place to think about that is in detention. And then she kicked me out of a room. But she was super funny, and she's in my life still. I go to church with this, with this teacher, Miss Ross, and man, well, we, I'll be excited to get to meet Miss Peterson one day as well, to be able to tell her, how much we appreciate that she sent you on this path, because that is a huge pivotal moment. So as you were, were doing all of these things and doing these cruises and those, big events surrounded by a lot of people, were there ever times, Ken, that you felt like you were without support, or ever had a lonely moment on the road, or anything of that nature?
No, those are two different questions. I never felt like I was without support. My wife and my family always supported what I was doing. The people that invited me in almost always invited me back. The only time I felt a little twinge was with people, bless their hearts, who didn't have a sense of humor. I remember one lady telling me I'd just done a conference, a youth conference, and she came up afterwards, and I had used an example of how it's our relationship with God that counts, not what we don't do or do. Well, I don't want to use do. I'll get in trouble for that. But anyway,
you've already said damn, so we'll go with do. Go ahead.
It's not what you do or don't. It's your relationship with God, and that affects what you do or don't. But I used some humorous but true stories. And she came up afterwards and said, God doesn't need your silliness. Just stop it. And there were people like that. I also did magic in the beginning of my career. My high school assembly was magic, and a lady accused me in backstage of being demon possessed and tried to throw me down the stairs. I felt a lack of support there, actually.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah. So those are the only times. Most of the time, I was so blessed with audiences that were thrilled with what happened. The people who inviting me back and sending me nice notes and things like that. So very seldom. Now, did I ever feel lonely on the road? Yes. As both of you know, I am in what I would call semi-retirement. I still take some events, but I still love what I do. But right now, I have 3 grandchildren who are here. They're here almost all the time, and I want to invest in their lives. See, the takeaway from what we've talked about is this: you never know when the sentence that you say is going to impact somebody's life forever. And I want to do that with my grandchildren. I told one of my grandchildren today, and I've been gone for much of their lives, but I told one of my grandchildren today, I'm here for you. I don't know what else to say other than that I am here for you. I had a chance to have lunch with one of my older granddaughters the other day, and we don't always agree on things. And I told her, there's nothing you can do to stop me from loving you. Nothing. Yeah. And I don't know how much effect that had, but I do know that we do have a responsibility to encourage one another.
That's really good. My parents were very influential in my nieces and nephews' life. Not as much my kids, because we moved, out of state. But they always had a birthday card. They always had a Christmas card. Anytime we showed up, it was always really good. But they did the same thing that you're doing with your grandkids, that they're there. So my parents have been to all of their games, all of their soccer games in the heat, in the cold.
Yes.
They've been to all of those things, and it makes a huge difference
Mhm.
because they are well educated, they're well rounded women and young men that just because of the influence of the grandparents. I mean, I've seen it, and it's just I see the difference between my kids and
Mhm.
them, and it's very, very important that what you're doing. So I just want to say
Mhm.
on behalf of your grandkids, thank you.
Yes, yeah. It's a fill in the gap too. A lot of times,
It
there
is.
are things that my son's not going to come talk to me about, but he might talk to his grandpa about it. He
Mhm.
might sit down and have a conversation with him and be that be that person. Well, speaking
Yeah.
of supporting, so have you along the way have you had an opportunity? Because I really feel that I've only been able to be in your presence a few times, and I definitely have felt this part of your heart, Ken, that you lay out there of wanting for people like me and who's early in my journey and others, that you want the best for us, that you truly care about the next generation of
Mhm.
comedians that are going through this. So have you had an opportunity to be laugh support to someone and help someone along their journey in comedy?
Well, the CCA convention that we attended, the Christian
Mhm.
Comedy
Christian
yeah,
Comedy Association retreat.
Association,
Yes.
yeah, right. Association. By the way, Tom Schultz is the president of Group Magazine. It came to
Mm.
my mind somewhere along the way. But anyway, yes, one of the biggest delights for me in the recent time is, for instance, being at that organization with all of those young comedians, and they are all young in comparison. Um, Being able to pour into their lives, being able to sit, over lunch with some of them,
Mhm.
um, has been just it's been a really really fun thing to do and to try and encourage them.
Yes.
Um, and then just friendships with people where you sit down
Mhm.
and talk about real life,
Mm.
where you talk about the struggles of being on the road, and there are so many
Mhm.
pitfalls and struggles there, and to be able to talk truthfully about that and support one another is just that means a lot to me now. I really feel that my the gift that she talked about is to be used a lot more now by sitting with you guys, laughing over a meal or
Mm.
riding a roller coaster, drinking liquor.
Yes, yes.
Or I'm sorry, I
And
couldn't resist.
Cheerios and Fruit Loops and maybe with a sloth, with our pet sloth that we're about to pick up.
I couldn't resist. I just wanted to see the guy roll over in his grave. But anyway, uh, sitting with you guys just means so much to me. Being
Mm.
able to come and meet Michelle and be nice to her, even though she's the way she is. It just has
She's
been a
brutal.
delight. Yeah.
Yeah, she scares me. I I had a sign in the back that said "Ken help," but
Yeah.
she noticed it before we went live, and then she made me take it down. She knows where I live. She showed up and she dropped things on my front
Yeah.
porch one time, so
Yeah.
I did.
I am a little
It took
afraid.
me a while to realize. It took not very long, but it took me a while to realize that this is part of her gift. And I mean that. I don't mean that in a nasty way. I mean that this persona that she puts forward is
Yes,
hilarious,
yes,
especially when you get to know her and realize she's not funny any other way.
yes.
I'm
She
sorry.
is
I
boring as
can't
all
help
get out.
it. I'm trying to encourage you. No,
Good
that
job. You're
persona
doing
that you have,
good. Keep
very few
going.
people have that. Yeah.
Well, I've definitely seen you use your gift just recently to help not just well, obviously the CCA. I know that you being there and the talk that you had. I mean, I've got notes, that are in a basket right outside the door where I was writing down things that different speakers were saying, and there was many things that like really really touched my heart about what you said. But I had just previously got to see you perform at a fundraiser for a comedian, and you were definitely laugh support in that situation because our friend Bonehampton, which we've mentioned before, has, he's had some major health struggles, and it was a fantastic fundraiser packed with a crazy amount of talent. Myself and Christy Condor, the twins, we just stood at the door and pretend to scan cards or, people's tickets. There was no scanner. We just made the noise and made up random rules for people coming in and out. We had a fun time making people laugh before they even came in the door to sit down to laugh. Like, we had so much fun. But I had bought some tickets and I gifted them to some people in the area that I knew would be blessed by coming. And I'm telling you, my friend Yvonne and Nick, after the show, were tore all to pieces about you. They saw so much talent, amazing comedian. Shonda was there, and Tim Hawkins and Leland Clausen, and literally, like, Ken brought the house down. It was so much fun, and like, that's who they wanted to talk to me about. And they're like, "Do you know him? Have you worked with him?" And I mentioned this to Ken the other day. I'm like, I got to meet him once, and he kicked me. He kicked me right in my leg and in the shin, and it was it was COVID. It was all about COVID. It was when he stopped handshaking, and and you were being supportive. You were being supportive to our friend Jeff Allen. We had been writing at Jeff's house for a year or so, and we had started doing a monthly free thing at this little place called Lab Canna. Jeff couldn't be there. Ken Davis was coming to fill in, and
kicked you.
And I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And he put his foot out, and I was like, "This man's about." But he knew, he was more in tune of what was going on in the world than I was, because I live in Junebug land. I didn't know, and so I made a joke about like how I was so excited to meet this man for the first time, and then he kicked me, Michele. So I know he's picking on you for being mean, but come on, Ken. Come on.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I really, it was a compliment. You did it. You had me confused for about that amount of time. And then ever since then, the first time I see you, the first time I talk to you on the phone, your email messages are filled with hatred. I love it. It is so fun. It is so fun.
Well, Michele said the first time she met, because I was like, he kicked me, and she goes, "Oh, he must like you because he punched me right in the mouth."
No. Actually, that's not what happened. When I first met you, Ken, it was at a CCA conference, and you hugged me, and you're like, "I'm so glad to see you." And I'm like, I think you mean Dina O'Hara, because she took your score class. She went to the thing to be a speaker. I don't know you. You're like, "No, I know. I've watched your stuff." And I'm like, "Okay." So so from there, I'm like, "Are you a stalker?" So that's why I'm like extra mean to you, just to make sure that we got a distance.
I will never hug you again, ever. I promise.
You got a hug and a compliment. I got kicked, and the next week the whole world shut down. So that's
and who has the career? You do. So
and Ken's never asked me to work with him again. So, and he didn't ask me the first time. I just happened to be there. I was okay. That's how I got into comedy. I just show up, and they're like, "What's she doing here?"
We love you, Ken. Just gonna put that out there. Yeah. We love you.
June
said I'm obligated to say that. So go ahead.
Yeah. I knew it. There had to be a tag on the end. There had to be one. We love you. We love you. There. How'd that feel on your lips? I do want to say this. One of the questions that you sent ahead of time was about advice some people gave me that helped me with my career.
Yes.
Do we have time to talk a little bit about that?
That's kind of where we wrap it up.
The greatest advice that I got was from my first agent, who was just out of his teen years. He had been a youth pastor, and he was representing someone else at the time, and I asked him if he would be interested in helping me, if he felt he could help me. And it was unbelievable. He basically, the basic advice he gave me that allowed me to make the kind of career that now, in this period of time with the economy and everything, I don't have to worry about anything, was this: you've got to get noticed.
Mm.
And you've got to keep in touch with the people who've seen you. So back then I had, in the middle of my career, I think it was 58,000 people on a mailing list. Now you can imagine what it costs to mail those people something. It wasn't like email free, but I was able to keep in touch with them. He was the one that insisted. One of my friends had a radio show that was 5 minutes long. The part for whoever was running it was only 3 minutes because it had bookends on both ends. And it only showed a nonprofit Christian stations. Not showed, was heard. And he insisted that I take it. Well, I said, how many times a day does it? He said, it's once a day, every day. I thought of the work that would take. And of course, I'm thinking I had to sit down every day. He finally convinced me to do it. And from that time forward, I've never had to pick up the phone and say, will you hire me? I've never had to hire someone to pick up the phone and say, will you hire me? Literally, when that was at its peak, I could go to any town where there was a radio station willing to support the show.
Wow.
And our show played, and put anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 people in an auditorium. They didn't know who I was. I would be in the foyer. They didn't know who I was. If I started speaking, they would recognize my voice. But it was before, you were all over the internet.
Right.
My buddy Tim Hawkins today I'm convinced of it, enjoys the career that he enjoyed because he gave away little pieces of what he had on YouTube. And he let people know how they could get a hold of him. It's so important to get noticed.
So that was Tim Hawkins?
Pardon?
What was that? Tim Hawkins? Who's that?
Tim Hawkins, yeah.
Hawkins.
Hawkins.
Okay. Hawkins.
There she goes.
Okay.
Write that down. Never heard of him, Michelle? Never heard
I'll
of him?
be so glad when he watches this and gets back to you.
Oh, that's so cute that you think that he's watching this.
Love you, Tim.
Michelle's been stalking him, but yeah, no, I don't think. One day. No, I love that you said that giving away just Tim gave a little piece away, just gave a little bit of a little piece away because I definitely, that's an area, speaking of advice, as I go back and forth about like, and especially newer into comedy, I'm like, I don't want it to be something out there that like 4 years from now stops me from getting work because somebody's like, oh, she's awful. Like, have you seen this stuff? This stuff that's out there. But also I do believe that this gift that God has given us is something that is to be given away at certain points. And I saw you, like I said, with Bone Hampton, you gave that gift and money was raised and somebody's life was changed because of the ripple effect of someone saying something kind to you and seeing something in you. And I think that's what we've discovered doing this podcast is that a lot of times God will put people in your life that see something in you long before you recognize it. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
So the fact that you've had several, over 20 specials that are over an hour long, how do you change and how do you continue to grow and evolve your act? Because like that, I think that's one of the things that June is talking about right now was the fact that it's, if we put something out, well, we only have this much material. So how did you just continue to keep getting new material? Did you have another kid? Like, oh, new material.
Yes.
Now you have a grandkid, new material.
Yes, absolutely. That's it. I went shopping, new material. I'm serious about that. And you've got to remember this. You've only known me for a certain number of years at the end of my career. So I have hours of material that has developed over the years. There are times now when I'm invited back to places year after year after year, and I dig back way to the beginning so that I can, because I don't write material. I live material. Does that make sense?
Oh, I love that.
Ooh,
I'm
that's
not a
good.
stand-up comedian. I'm a storyteller. And the stories I tell are stories that have been exaggerated so far out of reality about something that happened in real life or just what happened in real life. that I've been able to collect those materials and then go back. Now, I'm glad you asked that question because I think it's important, even in this stage in my life, when I am not working as much as I am, to continue to keep my eyes open for new material. You got to keep your eyes open, and it jumps out at you all the time. I'll give you an example. Your story about me kicking you, I forgot that. You didn't. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And my ability to help people, after we quit, I'm going out, I'm going to kick as many people as I can find just to help them so that they can come up with some new stuff. I mean, yeah.
Headline news: Ken Davis was arrested for assaulting his neighbors.
Yeah, it's all the time.
Colson.
Headline news: Ken Davis arrested for hugging angry person. Headline news.
Yes,
for hugging Karen. Oh.
Yes. What set you off, Ken Davis? And he said, I just discovered that all the Fruit Loops are the same flavor.
Those sinners. Somebody needs to get a roller coaster in here.
Distract those sinners. Well, Ken, we can't thank you enough for coming on here, hanging out with us, talking with us, and just being somebody that is just a great example of how you can take a gift that God gave you and how to treat people, how to kick people, but also how to take the gift that God gave you and really bless people and trust him in that journey. And because of you doing that, and because people who have been your laugh support, you have definitely blessed myself, Michele, and most recently, I thank you because the Christian Comedy Association retreat, it was because of people like you who are willing to share that we had such a great experience with each other and with God. And so, so again, we thank you for that, guys. We want you to check out Ken Davis. You can find him. I'm going to wait until it scrolls back again. Michele makes me read this because she knows my attention deficit. I struggle. Okay. KenDavis.com. On Facebook, you can find him at Ken Davis Comedy. Instagram, it's Ken Davis Live. He's slowly shrinking. And also at www.scorre training.com. Those are all the places you can find Ken Davis. Also, maybe in his town square kicking people. So just keep an eye out for him and check out all of the amazing things that are available online from Ken.
By the way, YouTube is playing a lot of my stuff now. That's another thing. You can monetize things like that, which is wonderful. Yeah.
So there you go, guys.
Notice it's all on Crown TV on YouTube. So YouTube. Crown, or it's crown.tv, I think, on YouTube.
And that little journey with my computer was my grandchildren. I wanted everybody.
Yes, I was going to ask. Yep. Okay, so that's your 3 grandbabies, and it's the same artist do these pictures. So what we're looking at, guys, is on the wall behind Ken. There are these beautiful pictures. You painted.
Wait, you painted?
Oh my gosh! Wow. Now he's just showing off.
No, I was showing my grandchildren. I am showing off. I was just showing my grandchildren.
Yes. Oh my gosh, how beautiful!
I love
and so, have you always painted, or is this a new thing? Or
since I was about 19. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So guys, definitely
take some lessons. I'm just wondering when you're going to get some lessons in there.
Here's how I would picture you painting, Michele. You reach into a bucket and you go.
Just sling it.
Do you not like my background?
I do, but when the show's over, I want you to rip that down and show me what's the back there.
So Michele's background, we thought was a quilt, but apparently it's a, for those who are listening and not watching, apparently it's a tablecloth. But hey, so you can actually see this podcast if you want to see the amazing pictures that Ken has done. That truly is beautiful artwork of his grandkids on the wall behind him, and Michele's random tablecloth, and then probably my dog who's made a few appearances in the background. Then make sure that you check us out. You can see the Laugh Support Podcast on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV. You can also see us on Vimeo and on our YouTube channel. So guys, make sure that you come in and check this out. Again, Ken Davis, we thank you so much for being here. Michele's going to kick you to the back for a minute. We would love for you to stick around so we can properly say goodbye to you in whatever weird fashion.
Kick you to the back.
And that's it. That's it, Michele, for this amazing episode of the Laugh Support Podcast. Thank you so much for telling Ken that we love him. That was important. That's important because I'm not sure how he's going to feel after being on our show today.
We're going to owe him so much money. Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
so. I think so. But you didn't mention the swear jar when he said out
No,
damn
I was only
spot out.
see now you owe to the swear jar. He does
So
not.
our last guest said boozum, like boo. And now we have this. I don't know if we're going to be able to continue to be a clean podcast with all these crazy Christian
We
comedians.
might get canceled after this. This might be it. So, June, I love you. I love you. So, thank you for listening, listeners. Hey, we have new listeners now in Hawaii. So, just
Ooh.
FYI. What?
Do you think
Aloha.
do you think it's because of the episode where my mother passed away and I was going to put a hula skirt on her when the coroner came? Do you think that's why we have Hawaiian listeners? I'm not sure. We'll see.
I'm
I
gonna
hope
go
they send
no.
us an
I'm gonna go
email.
with no.
Michelle, what's our email? They can send us an email from Hawaii. What is it?
Thelaughsup@gmail.com.
Thelaughsup@gmail.com. So y'all, that's going to be it for this edition of the Laugh LAUGH support podcast. I'm June Colson. Jesus and Junebug loves you. Michelle, sign us off.
All right, little Michelle and the Messiah, I want to tell you to take it higher. What?